Friggin' pumped, ladies and gentlemen. We have actual real football games. Not only real football games today, but probably the most exciting game in the year, at least in my mind, with the Chiefs, Ravens, the Lions game. I'm expecting the Niners to go out there and win it relatively easily, so that's not too big of a deal. But let's go ahead and let's pull up these teams. We're going to be diving in deep, looking at potential trades, the whole 9 yards. But before we get into it, I do want to remind y'all that if, for whatever reason, you are not already drafting with us on Underdog Fantasy, not too late. You can still hop on Underdog. Promo code FLOCK will get you 100% deposit match, plus our Dynasty Fantasy Football rankings and a Christian McCaffrey special pick'em, more than less than half a total yard. You can find that link in the description, ladies and gentlemen. That's Underdog Fantasy, code FLOCK if you want all that. But nonetheless, we're going to be breaking down this first team coming out from Puckett, a longtime member of the flock here, saying 12 teams Superflex, start 10, no tight end premium, half PPR, won the championship in the first year of the league. How do I extend this to a long-term dynasty? All right, my friend, thank you so much again for being a longtime member of the flock. I'm going to be excited to dive into this for you. But first thing is, let's go ahead and let's talk about the starting lineup requirements. Now, this is going to be a league where we are starting 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, a tight end, 2 flexes, and a super flex. So if my math is correct, this is a start 10 dynasty league, like not necessarily anything that we have to make dramatic adjustments for. I mean, I think that start 10 dynasty leagues pretty much the standard at this point. I prefer start 11, but that's just my personal preference. But nonetheless, at quarterback, we're currently sitting with Josh Allen as well as Kyler Murray. So beautiful spot to be in both for the short and long term, right? I mean, we're not necessarily too worried about either one of these quarterbacks with their long-term potential. And in the short term, they should be both projected out. In the case of Allen, probably is the quarterback one in redraft leagues next year. In the case of Kyler, definitely is a QB1 in redraft leagues. Hopefully he still has the same rushing upside that he did early on in his NFL career, especially if they're able to get Marvin Harrison Jr. in Arizona. I think you're very excited about what we have with both QBs. But going over to the bench, let's see if we have any quarterbacks here. We do sit with Jordan Love as well. Jordan Love is someone that has been probably the fastest riser on flogfantasy.com when it comes to the community rankings and his overall value. And completely understandable, right? Because he comes in wild card this season. You have no idea what he's going to do. He's either going to be great. He's maybe going to be horrible. No, and he ends up being great. I mean, let's go ahead and let's pull up the rankings on flogfantasy.com just because every single day we look at this, it seems that Jordan Love is just higher and higher and higher. So right now, if you are looking at Jordan Love, valued as the quarterback 10, right in between the rookie pick 103 and the rookie pick 104, and kind of the same tier with Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall, Jahmyr Gibbs, so the top 3 running backs in Dynasty. But yeah, if you're going to pull up his card here, you will see that over time, I mean, he has just consistently risen here in these rankings where people are pumped regarding Jordan Love. So to have him as your quarterback 3, essentially have 3 QB1s in Dynasty. Kyler's the QB9, Love the QB10, and then Josh Allen right now being valued as the QB1. Now that's the community rankings. If you look at the expert rankings, it'll be a little bit different, but tomato. I think that we are fine just looking at that. But nonetheless, moving on over to running back, now that we've figured out, yeah, we have absolutely no need at quarterback to make any moves. We are currently sitting with Kyren Williams, Tony Pollard. So with Pollard, I mean, extremely old for what you would naturally assume, just given the fact this is his first real year with a starting job. Doesn't do well. He's already now pushing 26, 27. So I'm more so valuing Tony Pollard as like a dart throw. Maybe we get another year out of him as a running back too, but really hard to assume that's going to happen. But we have Breece Hall, top 3 running back in Dynasty, pretty much consensus at this point. You have Kyren Williams coming off a top 5 finish on a rookie deal. Doesn't have the pedigree, so I'm a little bit hesitant to come out here and say that he is for sure going to be someone that we can rely on for the long term, but nonetheless, definitely has a ton of upside based off what we just saw. And if we are going to go down to what we have on the bench, I mean, right now we don't have a ton of running back depth, but it's not like we are in a position where we need to be building on running back. We can start the 5 wide receivers here. And we are sitting with St. Brown, DK Metcalf, Zay Flowers. It's a very well-balanced wide receiver room in terms of production now, as well as production in the long term. Just in case we need any DraftKings tips, we have Kayshon Boutte down there on the bench. So hopefully we can make sure that we're hitting our parlays if we have them in our ear. But nonetheless, we also have Jordan Addison. Love Addison. I am actually much higher on Jordan Addison than a lot of other people. Like if we go ahead and pull up the rankings right now, let's just look at wide receivers. If you are looking at Jordan Addison, he is currently being priced as the wide receiver 17 when it comes to the community rankings. If you are looking at the expert rankings with Jordan Addison, he is the wide receiver 17 still. But let's go ahead and let's pull up my own rankings. So just in case you don't know how to pull up my rankings on flockfantasy.com, hit filter, hit add expert, and then you can add pretty much anybody you watch on YouTube is on here. We're going to go ahead, add Mason Dodd, and I have Jordan Addison, wide receiver 11. I mean, I am extremely excited about Addison based off what he did, not only as a prospect at USC and Penn, but also what he was able to accomplish in his rookie season. I love the fact that we have Addison here, wide receiver 4. I mean, this is just a very well-balanced team top to bottom. We go over and see Mark Andrews on the IR as well. I mean, there's a clear reason we won this league. This is a league where we have 0 needs. This is a league where we're balanced between the short-term production and at the same time, the long-term upside. We are sitting here with the 112, the 212, the 312, the 412. 112, you're probably in a spot that we're not super excited about. Like, let's go over to the site real quick and let's pull up what we have with the prospects rankings. I mean, if you are looking at this, we're just going to go by expert. 12, you're in a range where it really is like the wild, wild west. Troy Franklin's probably going to be really anybody after like Brian Thomas, Troy Franklin. We don't necessarily know what that order is going to be like. And a lot of it's going to come from the NFL Combine as well as what we get from the NFL Draft. But you are in a position here pretty much where you're in play with a bunch of different wide receivers, the quarterbacks, maybe you mix in a running back or two. You can see exactly how bad this running back class is, or at least exactly how low all the rankers on the site are, where you have the first running back off the board after the first 6 quarterbacks and the first 9 receivers when it comes to the Superflex rankings. I mean, go ahead and you can look at what you have with the 1 quarterback rankings, which obviously this league's not in. If you're playing in a 1 quarterback format, maybe you're looking at like Jaden Daniels, Drake May, down there closer to pick 12. But obviously in a Superflex league, kind of is the Wild Wild West. We don't necessarily need anything here in particular if we are going back and looking at this roster. So, I mean, if you're wanting to kind of extend the runway here in a way, especially if we have no team need and we do have a considerable amount of depth at the same time, I think one thing that you could potentially look to do, knowing that pick 12 isn't necessarily going to be something that's super exciting, is if you wanted to see if we could package together maybe like DK Metcalf, that name value that hasn't necessarily shown us any production as of late. If we wanted to package together DK Metcalf as well as the 112 and try to move up to an asset that we view more so as that cornerstone piece, low end wide receiver 1. Let's go ahead and let's try to figure out what exactly we could be doing there. So right now, if you were looking at DK Metcalf's value in the expert rankings, you'll see that, I mean, obviously it is much lower than it used to be. DK Metcalf right now in the expert rankings is wide receiver 25. I'm sorry, that's actually the community rankings. Let's sort by expert. So he's 25 in the community rankings. And the expert, he is wide receiver 27. But nonetheless, he is valued as that low end wide receiver 2, high end wide receiver 3. What I could potentially be sold on is if we wanted to go through and if we could sell DK Metcalf and that late first, that 112, and get up into like the Chris Olave range, get up to the Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Brandon Ayuk range, I think that'd be really exciting. Let me go ahead and pull up the trade calculator and just see if there's any shot we could pull a deal like that off. We're going to be using the expert values here. We're going to look at Chris Olave versus DK Metcalf. And you can also get a sense once you put both these players in they'll actually show you trades underneath the trade calculator where you can actually see what is the difference between these guys. What would we have to add? So you can see that this deal here 7 days ago, someone traded DK Metcalf and 3 second-round picks to get to Chris Olave. You saw DK Metcalf, Saquon Barkley to get to Chris Olave, Jonathan Taylor. I have no idea how this got done. Obviously, that's the Chris Olave, Jonathan Taylor side. You have this deal where it was DK Metcalf and a future first for Chris Olave and Elijah Moore. So essentially, this deal that was made 22 days ago is a similar trade of what we would be trying to do, right? Where we're going to go ahead and we're going to try to sell the rookie 112 DK Metcalf for Olave. If you go ahead, put that in the calculator, it's going to say it's a fair deal. It has it as a slight favorite for Chris Olave. A lot of this is going to have to do with the league settings that you put in. Just in case you don't know, make sure when you use the trade calculator, you're putting in your exact league settings. This was a 12-team league where we started about 10 guys. So let's go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We're going to have to change this to 2 flexes. Let's go ahead and update that and see if that changes. Okay, so if you update that to a double flex league, this is hilarious. Then it's actually a 1-for-1 fair trade, 164 to 164. So yeah, if it was a single flex league, you would have the Olave side as the winner. Double flex start 10 league, it does have this as a fair deal. And for your team in particular, where we have the depth, I think I would prefer going ahead and making that deal if we can get over to Chris Olave. At least that would be my personal preference. But I think that should be it for this team. Obviously, when we go through and look at this, I do want to reiterate, super strong roster, very difficult to give any kind of advice. There's a reason you just won your league. Your team's extremely young as well. It's just primarily what I would be looking to do is I'd be looking to take DK Metcalf and that late round 1 pick, the 112 to be exact, and see if we can move up to a cornerstone asset. And just in case you're not like sold on someone like Olave, Garrett Wilson, I did just write an article about them on the site that hopefully you had the chance to check out. And we went through their range of outcomes through the first 2 years of their career. But I think that should be it. Again, thank you so much for being a member of the flock. I really hope that we were able to help you out with this. And I do want to reiterate, hired full-time developers for flockfantasy.com. I'm investing everything we have into it, making it the best site on the planet. So if there's anything you ever want to see on the site that we don't have already, please don't hesitate to reach out to me and let me know. I'd be super happy to get that done for you. But we are going to go ahead and skip past this team here just because the link is all white. It's going to look bad on a live stream. I'll do that in a personalized podcast, not on stream. We're going to go over to Putt and break down this team real quick. And before we get into it, I do want to reiterate, just in case you don't know, if you wanted to get your team broken down on one of these live streams, we do these for all the new members of flockfantasy.com that use promo code FLOCK when they sign up. So yeah, if you want to get access to all of our premium rankings, our trade calculator, all the premium content on the site, not only for myself, but pretty much everybody else that you watch on YouTube as well, you can find that link in the live chat, in the description, in the comment section. Promo code FLOCK, going to get you 30% off a new subscription, plus a free week trial. And yours truly will go ahead and break down your team in a live stream or a personalized podcast, whatever you prefer. But let's go ahead and let's get this going for Putt. Says, hey Mason, love your videos since we started a Dynasty League last year. Won this year and hoping to repeat. 12-team full BBR, 2 quarterback, 2 running back, 2 receiver, 2 flex, tight end, start 9. No tight end premium. We have the 106, 202, and 212. One of the top 3 quarterbacks might be available. Should we take May if he falls, or trade back for picks and try to get Troy Franklin, or maybe Brock Bowers, even though I'm set at tight end? Keep up the amazing work. Much love. Thinking about taking Jonathan Brooks at the beginning of the second. What are your thoughts? Or should we move to get more receivers? So we got a lot to go into here. But the first thing, before we even pull up the team, we'll pull up the team now. But I do want to reiterate, when we are sitting here and it is January 28th, I understand, obviously, it's very fun talking about rookies, and we should be very aware of this rookie class, the strengths, the weaknesses, the ranges of the draft that we want to avoid versus be in. By no means do we want to be sitting here on January 28th and saying, okay, with this pick, I'm taking this player. With this pick, I'm taking this player. With this pick, we haven't had the combine. We haven't had pro days. But we, of course, haven't had the draft. So I do want to reiterate, I'm not going to be saying exactly what we should be doing at the beginning of the second round with the 202 or the 212. I mean, we could talk about what we could potentially be looking at the 106, but please make sure that while we understand these prospects, you are not locking yourself into any of them individually. But more important than that even is I do want to talk about the starting lineup requirements here, because we are going to make some significant adjustments. So this is only a start 9 league. So with this only being a start 9 league and this being a 2 quarterback format at the same time, we should expect that about 30% of our lineup production from a week to week perspective is going to be coming from the quarterback position. So compared to that start 10 league that we looked at previously, here quarterbacks are going to be more valuable. They're going to be more important to winning, and it's going to be easier to find wide receiver depth and running back depth at the same time. So I am always going to skew with, let's get the elite quarterback. Let's build around those elite level quarterbacks, particularly in a league like this. Now, currently in the starting lineup, we have Mason Rudolph and Tua. Obviously, Mason Rudolph, not someone we're counting on going into the future, but we are sitting with Tua and Joe Burrow. I mean, very comfortable spot to be in. For sure, we can use a quarterback 3, right? So I would say if Drake May, if Jaden Daniels, if Caleb Williams, if any of those guys fell to you at pick 6, I think they'd be auto selections, to be completely honest. And maybe there's a shot that they do. But one other thing that I used to not really take as serious as I do now is the difference between a 2 quarterback format and a super flex league. I used to say, oh, okay, it's a super flex league. In that case, it should just be treated exactly like a 2 quarterback format, because if you're going to win, you have to start 2 quarterbacks every week regardless. You're going to want to quarterback it. In reality, once you play in enough 2 quarterback leagues versus super flex leagues, you realize definitely there is a difference with the trade market. There is a difference in that if you don't have that quarterback like Mason Rudolph that you could have put in once you had Joe Burrow going down, instead of in that super flex spot, you throw in a wide receiver 3 that's going to get you 10 points per game, and you're going to maybe be losing, say, 8 points per game, where an expected production standpoint from a quarterback 2 is like 18 points per game, whatever it may be. You know, maybe you're losing 6 to 8 points per game, having to pivot to a wide receiver in the super flex spot. If it's a 2 quarterback league and we are out of quarterbacks, then we're getting a 0. Well, we are having to take a 0, and we are down 18 points at that spot, or 16 points at that spot. So you can overcome maybe not having that second quarterback in a week in a super flex format, but in a true 2 QB league, it's going to be so much harder, which is going to dictate how the quarterback market is. So I personally would say, yeah, if you have the chance to take someone at the 106, I would jump at doing it, so we can have Tua, Burrow, and either Daniels or Drake May. Obviously, Caleb Williams won't be there. And I would go as far as saying, like, if you wanted to move up just a bit to pretty much guarantee yourself one of those quarterbacks, I think that there's a tier of about 5 guys in this year's class. I think there's a top tier of 5 and then a tier of 7. Obviously, this may change, but I think you're looking at Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr., obviously, as the top 2 receivers. And at the top 3 quarterbacks, you're looking at Daniels, May, Caleb Williams. So if we can get inside the top 5 and pretty much guarantee ourselves one of those guys, if it's a very reasonable price point, I wouldn't mind just going and offering the owner of the 105, be like, hey, man, I'll give you pick 6 and the 212. And just see what happens, right? Maybe he counters with the 202, and maybe we actually have to sit there and think about it. But yeah, I think getting that quarterback would actually make a relatively big difference for this team. Now, going over to why this team won this past year. Sitting with Kyren Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, back-to-back Kyren teams. Obviously, you love to see it. With Kyren, I do want to reiterate, I mean, historically speaking, these running backs that don't have a ton of team investment, it is difficult to come out here and just pencil them in to be for sure studs going forward. But at least in the case of Kyren Williams, you have the benefit of the fact that this is going to be a very weak running back draft class. So potentially you could get by with Kyren, just continue to be a workhorse for the Los Angeles Rams. Jahmyr Gibbs is my running back 1 in Dynasty. I have no questions. Devon Achane, another running back 1. I mean, I am somewhat concerned about his ability to handle a large workload without getting injured at his size. But nonetheless, I mean, you're very excited about where we sit at running back. Going over to wide receiver, we have Waddle, Puka, another reason why we won this league. And then going down to the bench, I mean, we are pretty thin at wide receiver at the same time. So this is a team that we don't have a ton of depth. We don't need a ton of depth, particularly because it's a start 9 dynasty league. If this was a start 11, if this was a start 12 league, I would for sure be saying, let's trade down. Let's move from the 106 and let's try to pick up a couple future first. Let's try to just get more assets with this team. The only thing is, with it being a shallower lineup, it's like, okay, well, we don't have depth, but we don't necessarily need depth. Going over to tight end, we have Ferguson and Kittle. Excited about these guys as well. So ultimately, it's a very interesting spot, right? Where I would love to add in another wide receiver. What I think you could find yourself in a position to do, not this offseason. There's no reason to do it this offseason. But I really like the fact that we have 3 2025 second round picks. We're not doing it this offseason, like I said, because I think we have enough talent on this roster. Once we take that rookie at pick 6, whoever it may be, don't rely on anybody in the second round that you're taking this year to actually be able to contribute. I mean, if they can, that's great, but we just can't rely on it. But once we bring in that guy at the 106, I think we will have a very strong lineup going into the season. I think it will be a team that lacks depth, and we're probably going to be in trouble if we have an injury or once we get to the bye weeks during next year. But that's not something that we are having to worry about in January. Instead, that's going to be something we have to worry about once we get to next season. So what we can do instead is essentially just stack these second round picks as we already have. And once we get to next season and we're sitting here in week 6, just say Devon Achane gets injured and we're like, oh crap, I need someone to fill in for the flex spot. Then we maybe take one of those second round picks and trade it for a veteran that's producing, that's on a team that has no shot to win, right? Trade a second round pick for Chris Godwin next year during the season. There's just no reason for us to make the deal like that when we are currently sitting in the spot that we are in. But let me pull up the trade calculator on flogfantasy.com real quick and see if we were to have any shot at being able to actually get that 106 to 105 deal done with a late second round pick. We're going to send the 106, get back the 105. We use the community values. I bet you it's going to say that we can. The issue is if we let's put in a late second and then let's try it with a third. Because I already know it's going to say that, yeah, we lose the deal, but the 212 is pretty much a third round pick. What does it look like in this instance? Yeah, it's in that fair trademark. I would love to make this move if I were you. They just go ahead and move up to the 105, if I'm going to be completely honest. But actually, that's for a start 10 league. Let me go ahead and change the league settings to a start 9 league. Yeah, in a start 9 league, it does have that as a fair trade. But I think that's all I have for you. Again, thank you so much, my friend, for being a member of the flock. I really hope that we are able to help you out in some way here. Really hope you're able to get something from this. And as always, if there's anything I can do for you, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Let me know, especially if there's any way I can improve the site for you. I mean, I'm grinding every single day, try to make this the best site that we possibly can. So yeah, if there's anything you ever want to see, don't hesitate to reach out to me and let me know. But let's go ahead and pull up our next team. Coming out from Jay says, yo, Mason, great job with all the content over the past regular season and loving the Dynasty content right now. This Dynasty League is an 8-team, half PPR, 2-2-3. Finished last place, made some trades to get the 103 with the 101 and another first-round pick next year. We have a ton of wide receiver depth, quality running backs, but no depth, and a quarterback room that can be improved. Thinking about trading some wide receivers when the season comes closer to making our picks. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is let's look at the scoring here, see if there are any adjustments we really need to make. So you're getting half a point per rushing first down and half a point per receiving first down, but you're not getting any first down points for passing. So this is actually going to make a difference. I don't necessarily know in a way that's obvious, but if you're getting half a point per rushing first down and there's no added bonus for passing statistics, what this is going to do is it is going to skew production in the favor of quarterbacks that are going to run the ball. Here, this is where you want Lamar Jackson. Here, this is where you want Jalen Hurts. Here, this is where you want Josh Allen. Obviously, you want them in all formats, but there is even a greater emphasis to have the rushing quarterbacks in this format in particular. And I would definitely be going after someone like Jaden Daniels in a league where you're getting half a point per rushing first down. And in terms of if we have to make any adjustments for wide receiver versus running back, I mean, technically you're going to see more running back first downs, but not necessarily something that we are super, super concerned about. Just because it's a half point per first down. So I'm not going to be making it where we have significantly less of a probability of putting wide receivers into our flex than running back. But another thing that I do want to bring up here is this is an 8-team league. So with this being an 8-team league, depth does not matter in the slightest. I know you're saying we don't have running back. I don't care if we don't have running back depth. This is an 8-team league where we are starting 2 running backs, 2 receivers, a tight end, and 3 flex spots. So if we just do some simple math here, I mean, right now we are going to be starting 8 non-quarterbacks. 8 non-quarterbacks in an 8-team league. There's going to be 64 total running back, wide receiver, tight ends being started across the league. If you're looking at a, say, start 11 league, that's a 12-team format, like what I play in, there, it's 108 starters that are non-quarterbacks every single week. So this is a league where you don't need to worry about depth at all. Literally, we're going to get to the bench, and we're probably just going to gloss right over it. Quarterback, we have Fields, CJ Stroud. Love to see it. You know, I'm not even a big Fields guy, but particularly in this format, this is where we want Justin Fields. Now, I will also say in an 8-team league, it's going to be much easier to find quarterbacks. The supply and demand is going to be thrown off just a bit. So if you're looking at the 101 in an 8-team league, this is where I think you can make an argument. Well, Mason, I mean, it's kind of a borderline super flex /1 quarterback. There are only 8 teams. There, if you wanted to go ahead, if you really wanted to take Marvin Harrison Jr., especially knowing that you're going to get another quarterback there at pick 3, I'd probably be looking at someone like Jaden Daniels, given the rushing aspect of this. I would be completely fine in this instance if you wanted to go ahead and do it. I'd say if it's a 12-team 2-quarterback format, you're taking Caleb Williams. Now, going over to running back, we're sitting with Breece Hall, Rachaad White, and just like you said, we have no depth at running back here. But another thing that I want to point out is just the fact that, I mean, there are very few actual roster spots here. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bench spots, 10 starting lineup spots, 4 taxi squad spots. So essentially call it, you have rosters of 24 with 8 teams. So you only have 192 players being rostered in this league, with this being a super flex league. So obviously backup quarterbacks are to be rostered as well. So you should actually be able to find some guys off the waiver wire. Like, I want to be surprised if this past year, I mean, it's not a guarantee, but there's a small chance that this past season, like, you had Kyron Williams coming off the waiver wire in this 8-team league. We're obviously in a regular dynasty league. There's just no shot of that happening. So yeah, going back to what we were talking about previously, I don't care about depth. I think you're great sitting here with Breece and Rachaad White on rookie deals. Going over to wide receiver, we have Nico Collins, Puka, Garrett Wilson, Jamar Chase, Brandon Ayuk. Beautiful spot to be in. We have the combination of both youth for the long-term, production right now for the short-term. We are double stacked here with Nico Collins, CJ Stroud, and Tank Dell. 100%, I understand you talking about trading some of these wide receivers and maybe getting a running back in return. And I agree in terms of I want to be selling wide receiver depth pieces with this league, with these league settings, every chance I get. Every chance I get, let's be selling wide receiver depth. I just don't necessarily think you have to sell it for running back depth. I would rather go through, and if we're sitting here with Deontay Johnson, Tyler Lockett, Zay Flowers, Tank Dell, Mike Williams, all those guys that aren't starting for us, I would rather go ahead and I would rather see if we could package together one of the receivers, maybe with Rachaad White, to go out there and go get a bona fide stud. Like, even though you have CJ Stroud, if we could take like Tank Dell and Rachaad White and go get a top 3 running back, go get Bijan, go get Jahmyr Gibbs, I think that'd be an absolute no-brainer, particularly in this format. Going over to tight end, we have George Kittle, completely fine with, nothing to really talk about there. And then going over to what we have with our rookie picks, we also have an additional future first. So we are in a very comfortable position. And even in an 8-team league, I think this is a team that is strong enough easily to be a contender this next season. Like I said previously, I wouldn't fault you if, particularly in this league, at the 101, you wanted to take Marvin Harrison Jr. and then follow that up at pick 3 with, say, like Jaden Daniels. Obviously, you can go in the reverse order. You can go Caleb Williams at 1 and then maybe go Malik Neighbors at 3. Really, it's going to come down to what we get over the next few months, what we get with the NFL draft. But for now, I mean, these are great picks. I would love to just be sitting with them for the time being. And one other thing that I do want to point out is, particularly with these league settings, if you find yourself in a spot where you're going, Mason, I just have so much wide receiver depth. I'm never going to start all these guys. I can't package them up. I can't go get that bona fide stud like Jahmyr Gibbs. That's not happening in my league. Understand that wide receivers are devalued here to the point where selling rookie picks for them selling them for rookie picks also isn't a bad idea. So say like you do everything you can. You go through and you try to make 2-for-1 deals, selling Zay Flowers and Rachaad White to go get a stud running back. And you're like, Mason, it's not happening. It's not working. If you wanted to then just take one of these depth wide receivers like Zay Flowers and sell for a 2025 first, I mean, a lot of people may hear, oh, I would rather have Zay Flowers over a 2025 first. And maybe in your 12-team 1 quarterback format, of course you would. But particularly in an 8-team 2 quarterback league where wide receiver depth doesn't matter, that's the kind of format where you would rather have a shot where every pick is guaranteed to be inside the top 8 and you have a 50% chance to have a top 4 pick in next year's rookie draft and take a swing for the fences, take someone that maybe has a lower floor but an incredible ceiling, and that's what we're kind of chasing in this league in particular. I think that's what we would be looking to do. But I hope we were able to help you out here, my friend. I really hope that we were able to get something from this. And yeah, thank you so much again for being a member of the flock. Really hope that you're enjoying the site. You're enjoying being a member of the flock. And if there's anything I can do for you, like I said, we got a full-time dev team improving the site every single day. So please don't hesitate. Reach out to me if there's anything that you want to see on the site. I'd be very happy to get it done. We got some big updates coming soon. But yeah, thank you again for everything, my friend. And I think we are going to answer one question. Alex says, how excited are we about the hire in Atlanta? I am just excited about the fact that we have no Arthur Smith for the Atlanta Falcons. I don't want to get all, okay, Drake London to the moon, Kyle Pitts to the moon. I know a lot of people are all in on Kyle Pitts here. I'm just excited we have no Arthur Smith. But Aiden says, how much does the Mother Flocker tier cost? With promo code FLOCK, which is a 30% off any subscription, the Mother Flocker tier, which is what you would do to get your team broken down with code FLOCK as well, is $16 a month or $97 for, a year. Let me go ahead and pull this up. But like I said, if you use code FLOCK as well, you're going to get a free week trial. So you can go ahead and see if you enjoyed the site. I mean, we've just had so much positive feedback on the site that I know you're going to love it. But yeah, if you use code FLOCK, you get 30% off and it'll be $16 a month or $97 for the entire year, whichever one you're looking at. But I think that's it. Again, thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out with us. Again, if you want to get your team broken down on one of these live streams, it's flockfantasy.com, promo code FLOCK, 30% off any subscription, all our premium content, all our rankings. Corey just put out an incredible database there that's going to help you all a ton with rookie drafts. Trade calculator, the whole 9 yards. And also, make sure If for whatever reason you're not already drafting with us on Underdog Fantasy, hop on there, code Flocky, you'll 100% deposit match, plus our Dynasty Fantasy Football rankings and a Christian McCaffrey special pick'em more than less than half a total yard for tonight's game. You can find all that with the links in the description. But thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. I really do appreciate you and really hope that we get to see you out with the video tomorrow morning.